You might guess what's in here. This is the latest smart telescope by ZWO. It is the Seestar S30 Pro portable smart telescope, and it comes like that in a nice little soft case, which I personally prefer soft cases to hard cases, even though they protect a bit less. And yeah, what's inside? Let's have a look. As we open the case, we have a tiny little tripod that you can, that's the type of that you put on a tabletop, right? And it's metal, it feels solid, and it feels more solid than the one that came with my Seestar S30, the non-pro version. And we have a USB-C cable for charging or getting files off of the Seestar S30, although you can do the same thing via network. And you have also a belt, you know, to basically a shoulder belt for the carry case. By the way, those little red things here, at first I thought it was like Samsonite. I'm like, wow, they partner with a brand and stuff. No, it's just Seestar. But it looks very nice. Otherwise, we get the real deal. This is the Seestar S30 Pro, a smart telescope. The price is, I don't know it at this stage. And the biggest thing about this compared to other smart telescopes at this price range, which we know it's going to be probably between 400 and 600 US dollars, something like that, is that it comes with quadruplet optics, meaning it has really nice optics corner to corner of the image, despite having a relatively large sensor, meaning a relatively large field of view, with the IMX585 sensor, which is my favorite sensor for astrophotography in general. And I use it for non-smart telescope astrophotography all the time. So I was really happy to see that when it occurred. And in terms of the form factor, it feels exactly the same as the old Seestar S30. It's nice, small, compact, and it weighs roughly 1.7 kilograms on my kitchen scale. But it is true that if you compare it to this gray thing here, which is another smart telescope with similar capabilities from Dwarf Lab that I did a review of recently, the Dwarf Lab Dwarf Mini, it's a bit larger and twice as heavy. So to me, coming from the Dwarf Mini, which is the most recent telescope that I had, a smart telescope that I had reviewed, it was a bit of a shock, but it's still very, very portable. So what you get with this is 150 millimeters of focal length, with a 585 sensor, which has small pixels, but at the same time giving you a wide field of view. So you have resolution and field of view at the same time, at a low price, in a small package, and a package that is fully controlled by your smartphone. You just select which target you want to view. Let's say you want to view the Great Orion Nebula or the Andromeda Galaxy. The scope will point to it automatically. It will speak to you. Actually, it will give you some details about the target you're about to image. It's kind of fun. And then it will start imaging, and it gives you the results even from where I am, which is Tokyo, a very light polluted city. So when we'll look at the actual results that we get, you need to keep that in mind, that this is basically the worst case scenario that I'm using the scope in. Let me turn it on.
Powering on, ready to connect.
And from the Seestar app, which I have on my phone, I'll go into some more details a bit later on so you can see exactly how it works under the stars. I will tell it to open its arm, because this is another thing, you cannot move the arm manually, unlike something like the Dwarf Mini. And you see that I've actually pre-installed on it. It wasn't installed like that, it was in the package, in the case at first. I've installed on it a solar filter that comes with the telescope. And before we go a bit more into the solar filter, you can see that at the front, we have the main lens here with the main aperture, which is 30 millimeters of aperture with the 150 millimeters of focal length I mentioned. But also here we have a secondary lens, which is a wide field lens that you can use for Milky Way photography, for star trails, and also when you're doing solar imaging as a finder for the sun. And that was actually kind of fun when I tried it out. Unfortunately, from Tokyo, I can't really do Milky Way photography, so I haven't evaluated these features yet, but this is taking direct inspiration from Dwarf Lab, and I love that because it really means that we have competition making the products from different brands better and better at a fast space. That's exactly what should be happening, and I love to see that. Now, if we put the solar filter on top. You can see that the solar filter has only one filter for the aperture. It seems to block the secondary lens. And it's actually not the case. It's slightly transparent. The black part here is slightly transparent, so we can use this as a finder for the sun. And we can look at sunspots, etc. You're probably seeing on the side of the screen how it looks with taking images of the sun, a video of the sun with sunspots. And you can see at the top left of the image, there's a small finder kind of window. And that's the secondary camera through the plastic, figuring out where the sun is so that you can point to it very easily. And so that's a pretty cool also use case for the secondary lens, and a cool design that we have here for solar observing, so for the sun. As you can tell also from the images is that the sun appears tiny. That's because the sensor is large, which gives us a very nice field of view, which is great for deep sky astrophotography. And if you want to take images of the sun, you really need to zoom in, which is fine because they have 2x zoom, 4x zoom, and then you can take raw videos and do a lot of processing on the sun to really get more and more details. It's pretty cool. What this telescope with its small focal length is not going to be good at is planets like Saturn, Jupiter, etc. You'll be able to see the rings of Saturn. You'll be able to see maybe the two main cloud bands of Jupiter, but not much more than that. And as you can see, by the way, as I close the arm of the Seestar, I've left the solar filter on. It acts basically as a dust cap, which I like having, and it doesn't get caught on the base of the Seestar S30 Pro. So that's pretty nice. Okay, but let's say you're new to smart telescopes. How do you use this? What's the quick start guide? Well, you take your telescope, you take the little tripod that came with it, you screw it in. By the way, it's a good time to mention that this is a 3/8 of an inch screw, which means that to adapt to AltAz Swiss plates, if you want to use another tripod, it's a bit annoying. But you know, it's actually a good format because it's larger than the standard 1/4. Anyway, here we have the Seestar on its tripod. I just plopped it on the table. Next step is to turn it on, long press. When you hear the beep, you can release the button, and now we want to wait for the Seestar to talk to us.
Powering on, ready to connect.
There you go. It told me it's powering on, ready to connect. So what I can do is I can go on my phone, and then I open the Seestar app. Then I need to connect to the Seestar. And once you have the Seestar app open, you can actually tap your smartphone against the Seestar, which has an NFC chip embedded, and then it should actually start the connection with the Seestar. You can just follow the instructions on the screen. Now, for me, it actually connected automatically because I have set it up to connect to my home Wi-Fi network when it's available, so that then it connects everything automatically. Once you're connected to your Seestar, the easiest is to just go stargazing and select a target that looks like it would be nice for you to look at. And for me, I'm going to choose M45, the Pleiades. Just tap on it, and it will show you a graph of altitude. And that's quite nice to know, and it tells you that it's southeast. So I know roughly that north is in this direction, south is in this direction, southeast is in this direction. So I know I have visibility towards there, and it also tells me it's at 67 degrees altitude, so roughly this angle. And so that I know that the Pleiades there are available for my Seestar to actually view. That's just the only thing that I need to think about with regards to my balcony and whether there are obstacles in the way, etc., etc. Once you figure that out and you know that you can go to it, otherwise, even if you don't know, it's going to figure things out, so don't worry too much about it. You can tap on Go Gazing.
Finding object.
And there, finding object. And it will also start to talk to you.
The Pleiades M45, the Seven Sisters, is a bright, naked eye open cluster in
with
Taurus.
explaining to me what the Pleiades are. It's pretty cool, actually, pretty fun. If you're new to all of that, I'm going to turn off the light so you can figure out where it's pointed. I've turned off the light, and now it's just figuring out exactly where it's pointed automatically. So I'll just let it do its thing, because now it has told me object is centered. It's not doing a process that it does only the first time after you start it up. So each time it will do it once after you start up and does the horizontal calibration. It might fail. You don't really need to worry about it too much. It's fully automated. Now it's done with the horizontal calibration, so it's going back to the target, to the Pleiades, and object is centered. So we're good to go. Now it's going to automatically do autofocus on the stars.
Autofocusing.
There you go. So you let it do its autofocus. That's to make sure that the stars are as pinpoint as possible for the telescope. Autofocus is completed, and now it starts to enhance the image. So what it's doing is that it's taking a lot of 10-second exposures, one after another, and then it stacks them together to really get the best result possible. And there we go. We can see the Pleiades there at the center of my screen. And you can see at the top right, there's this 20 seconds. So what it says, if you tap there, it says that it has stacked two 10-second exposures. Ignore 0, because it will automatically ignore exposures that have star trails, the tracking didn't work, there was too much wind, etc., etc. And it does everything on its own like that, and gradually, as time goes by, so I will re-click and see that now we have 4 stacked, we will start seeing some nebulosity appear around those stars, and you can then, do a lot of things to zoom in, zoom out, etc., etc. You can even, at any time that you like, use this little wand icon that will do some denoising, AI-based denoising on your image, and then you can do some quick processing on your image to try and see even more than what you can see with the standard enhancement procedure. Right now, we're in Tokyo, so super light polluted. There's also slightly more than the half moon, so it's really not the best time to be doing that because there's so much light pollution, but it still gives you an idea of what is possible with the Seestar, and I'll show you what it looks like after you've taken a long time on the same target to really see the type of image that you can get. It's still taking those exposures, and you may not notice, but this area here where I have my finger looks to be slightly brighter than the rest of the image or the background, and that is not an artifact. That is actually part of the nebulosity around the stars of the Pleiades. So it's some pretty cool stuff. And by the way, if you're tired of waiting, you can just close the app and come back later. It does everything within the telescope, so it doesn't rely on the app. You don't need to be stuck on it while it's doing its things. You can leave it be for 30 minutes, for instance, and then 30 minutes later, you will look at what it looks like and see how the nebulosity is more and more visible on the nebula. But, of course, I'll show you end results on the computer, and on the smartphone, by the way, from the Seestar, on the Pleiades, on the Horsehead Nebula, and using a secret hack, not secret, but a very interesting hack called the equatorial mode to get even better pictures. So let's get to that. Before that, by the way, if you appreciate this kind of video and you want to support the channel, you can like the video, leave a comment down below. What do you think of the Seestar S30 Pro? And if you're planning on buying anything from ZWO, like the Seestar, or Agena, High Point Scientific, or even Amazon, if you do so after clicking one of the links that I have down in the description or the pinned comment, it will help me out at no cost to you. If you want to support the channel directly to become a sponsor, a VIP member of the channel, you can become a channel member. It's the join button next to the subscribe button, or you can become a Patreon member. And some of my Patreon ranks have access to my videos early and without ads. You also have access to a Discord server if you're interested. The link is down in the description. You guys, you know it. You make all of this possible. I say it every time. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, so now that we've seen how it works, we can look at some final results, because I had several nights with the Seestar S30 Pro, and it's been performing quite well. One thing that I mentioned under the stars is that we could use it also in a professional kind of mode, which is equatorial mode, using a tripod like this with a proper, pretty strong pan/tilt head. You can use this in equatorial mode. I believe ZWO also sells tripod and head combination for that. I already have one from their competitor Dwarf Lab, and it works well enough. So just to show you, basically because the S30 is still a bit heavier than something like the Dwarf Mini, I have to adjust the angle of my tripod legs to be fairly shallow so that I have more stability, something like this, right? So it takes more of a, there's more of a footprint on the ground when I do it like that. So we end up with a very stable tripod like this, and then what I need in my case is an Arca Swiss plate where I fit a 3/8 of an inch adapter on top. You can buy those very cheaply all over the place. Then you can screw that into the Seestar. The recommended orientation when you do polar alignment for equatorial mode is that you want to have the power button here facing upwards, so the Arca Swiss plate should be in this orientation when you put it on. Then you can place the Seestar on top of your stable tripod, lock it on, and the next operation is how we achieve polar alignment. There's actually a whole mode in the app that does that kind of like automatically for you, that guides you as to how to achieve polar alignment. You basically want to start by tilting the telescope to your same latitude, so for me it's 36 degrees, and then you want to move it around so that it points towards more or less true north. You can refer to the star Polaris if you're in the northern hemisphere to really adjust that at first, and then you can just use the app, and the app will basically move the scope around, look at the stars, figuring out exactly how it's pointed, and then it will tell you like, oh yeah, move a bit like 5 degrees to the right, and then you can move 5 degrees to the right. Move 2 degrees up, and you can move 2 degrees up, something like that, right? So you can adjust that until it's perfect, it's all real time, and then you're ready to go. The main advantage of that is that you get rid of something that's called field rotation when you just use the simple tripod with the telescope moving horizontally and vertically. And you also are able to take longer exposures fairly easily. And I was able to take 60-second exposures, which is the maximum for the Seestar, in equatorial mode, and I had roughly 90% success rate on those exposures, so 10% was getting thrown away. I found the tracking to be quite good, and also when I used it just in this horizontal and vertical mode, so AltAz, I saw that 95% of the frames were being retained, even with the target very close to the zenith, which used to be a problem with this kind of smart telescope. Okay, so that's like the magic trick if you want to really go deep and take amazing pictures. And one feature, by the way, that I used during those nights is the plan feature that I really recommend using because it's a lot of fun. Basically, once you're connected to the Seestar, and I'm on the app right now, you can click or tap on plan, and then you can choose target. So I can create a plan and say we're going to call it test. Oops, there it is, confirm. And you can search for objects and say like, okay, I want to start imaging the Triangulum galaxy, M33. And I'm going to click on add here, and I'm going to say, okay, from early evening to, let's say, until it's around 60 degrees elevation, we're going to image the M33, validate that. Then I can search for another target, and let's say I want to image the Pleiades after that. I'm going to say, okay, Pleiades, I can frame it a little bit better or, to my taste. And then I can click add and set, okay, it's going to be until 50 degrees up until roughly midnight. And then maybe I want to go to the Horsehead Nebula, add. It's a bit low, but we're going to try until 30 degrees and validate that. And then I'm going to search for M51, the Whirlpool galaxy there, and locate target position, add, and for the rest of the night. Validate that. And then all I need to do is click on execute there, and it will start my plan, and it will do everything on its own, which is a feature that also exists on other brands, but it's a feature that I love. The only thing that I don't love about this feature is that while I can on each of those items say whether I want to use the included light pollution filter, so it has a light pollution filter that is great for emission nebulae. And you can see I have the LP filter here at the top right that can disable or enable back, and that will be enabled automatically for you for the targets that make sense for it. I'll show you the results soon. It's awesome. and that's good, but you're unable to change the exposure time depending on the target. I'd like to say that for like galaxies and reflection nebulae, I want 30 seconds, the ones that don't use the light pollution filter, and then the ones that do, because the light pollution filter cuts a lot of light, then I want 60 seconds, right? That would be nice to have, but it's not currently available. Still a super cool feature to have in there. And then when you press execute, you can quit the app, you can do whatever you want, and the telescope will do everything on its own. And actually when I used it, because it's cold outside, most of the time I just plopped it on outside, went inside, several floors down to my living room, and then I just controlled it from the app, not caring about anything. And yeah, it was pretty nice. I wish I could have sipped wine, but because I have an injury, I'm not allowed to drink a drop of alcohol. So I sipped orange juice. Okay, so to check the results of the Seestar, whether you've let it image the Pleiades for a long while, or you've used a plan to take an image of many targets, what you'll want to do is to go in the app, and in there you'll go to My Album, click on Seestar, and that will give you the stuff that is in the Seestar, and you'll be able to see the targets that you have imaged. So, for instance, I have IC434 here, which is the Horsehead Nebula in the Orion Nebula, and this is what I get by default on the Seestar. And I could also look at another target that I took images of, which is here, the Pleiades. And that's this guy that I used actually equatorial mode like this here for that, with 60-second exposures across multiple hours. And what's pretty cool is that within the scope, not only, I mean, there's a lot that's pretty cool there. I'm in Tokyo. Look at that. We can actually see here the Horsehead from the Horsehead Nebula. We can see Alnitak, we can see the Flame Nebula underneath. We can see a lot of details. And what I like as well is that the stars are round throughout the field of view. The only issue that I have with the stars is that they are a bit fuzzy. They feel slightly out of focus, but manually I wasn't able to do better than the autofocus did. So either it's because focus is really tricky, or it's the optics are soft. I don't know exactly what's going on. It's not a big deal at all. And I can tap on this magic wand icon here for the Seestar to actually perform a denoise operation on the image, and it will also give us a menu to increase contrast, brightness, etc. I'll also show you in a moment on my computer what happened and the insane results that I got when I processed those images manually. And here we have the image after AI denoise, and you can see immediately everything is more visible and clearer as well. The stars also appear to have been sharpened a little bit, and the Horsehead is definitely more visible. So that's kind of already pretty awesome. I can use the compare button to look at the before and the after. Pretty neat. And I'm able to change like brightness. I can make it brighter, more contrasty. I can increase the saturation, that kind of stuff. And then I can, save my image and download it, send it to, put it on social media, etc. By the way, you can see that at the bottom left, I have this weird bright area. Top left, they have some weird dark areas, and that's actually remnants of the field rotation that you get with just the altitude, the horizontal and vertical movements, rather than using the equatorial mode. If I look at something like the Pleiades, which I have here, which I took in equatorial mode, if I click on the AI denoise, so we can see the results that we get with the Pleiades as well. And now that it's done, this is an incredible result. And this is, I think, 4 hours of data from Tokyo. And oh yeah, talking about 4 hours, something I didn't mention is the battery life. You can, of course, connect it to an external battery while it's taking images, but in my tests, it was able to image on its own without needing to be recharged around 6 to 7 hours. And I'm very sorry about that, but it was indeed between 6 and 7 hours. So that's actually really good battery life compared to the Dwarf Mini, for instance, that had only like 3.5 hours when it felt like it was in a good mood. So pretty good battery life that helps justify the size of the package. And yeah, going back to the Pleiades, this is pretty amazing. All of this reflection nebulosity that we can see. And this is reflection nebulosity because those stars are very young stars. They emit in the blue spectrum, and there's just like space dust floating around them. And that space dust is reflecting the light from the stars. Compared to the Horsehead Nebula, around the Horsehead Nebula, that red nebulosity you saw was emitting its own light. And I love this image. This is such a cool image, and you can see that because I used equatorial mode, I don't really have much of an issue with the corners of the frame, and I can play with the brightness again. I can play with the contrast again. We can even start seeing nebulosity around the main cluster. And I could play also with the saturation if I wish to, and then send that on my network, crop out some artifacts that I have on the sides. Here we go. And those artifacts, by the way, they're caused by a technique called dithering. That's very important, and that the Seestar does automatically. And I can, validate that and save that somewhere and do whatever I want with it. And that is indeed a lot of fun to be able to do that directly from here. You can do all sorts of crazy stuff as well. You might have noticed I've taken images of the Pleiades multiple times. I could say deep sky stack, and I could say like, okay, I want to take all of my images of the Pleiades and have you stack them. And by the way, you're looking here at my individual subframes, and you can see sometimes the images get disturbed by clouds there, which means that you have raw access to the subframes if you enable it to do stacking and processing on your computer if you wish to do so. Okay, now's the time to look at the results of the images when I process them manually using expensive software called PixInsight. That's actually used also by the team that processes some of the Hubble and James Webb Space Telescope images for public consumption. And that's what I get with the Pleiades. So we get a lot more nebulosity, and what I really like about this image is that we get nebulosity on the outskirts of the Pleiades as well. I used some AI denoising there that was obviously too aggressive. For instance, you can see tons of small filaments there all around here. Nah, that's just the AI hallucinating. So it's not an image that I would share. I would probably share the one from the Seestar directly because I know that some of the details in there are lies. But when you zoom out, the overall nebulosity here actually exists and was actually captured by this tiny thing from Tokyo, Japan, in just 4 hours, and we get the main area of nebulosity. I mean, it's a pretty decent image. And then when we look at the Horsehead Nebula, this is what I got again in 10 minutes of processing. The Horsehead is there. It's very visible. It's awesome. And this Horsehead Nebula is one of the reasons I started astrophotography in the first place. I wanted to see this and to capture it with my own tools. And it took me so long to do it with my own equipment back when smartphones didn't even exist. Well, they kind of did, but not very much. And there comes 15, 16, 17 years later, this little guy, and it lets me do that in one night. Just, you saw me, it's plopping it on the table and letting it do its stuff. And that's it. That's, I think, pretty amazing results for a tiny thing like that. So overall, what do I think of this little thing? I think it's very good. It's a very good smart telescope. It's small, it's relatively light, it's very portable, and it has proven that it can be used quite well in this very easy tabletop mode, or you can mount it on your own tripod if you wish, and it can get even better in equatorial mode. It's also shown that you can do on-body processing fairly easily, and you can get very good images like that, and even better images if you do processing manually. It can do solar astrophotography, it can do Milky Way, it can do star trails, it can do deep sky astrophotography, which is my specialty and what I really focused on in this video. It can do pretty much everything, and it has an amazing sensor, the 585, that gives it a really, compared to the competition, wide field of view with a long battery life of around 6-7 hours, which is pretty good. Actually, really, really good. That means that a lot of the time, especially in summer when the nights are short, you don't need to bring a secondary battery pack. So you can just make do with just the main body, which makes its bigger size compared to something like the Dwarf Mini less of a disadvantage, because with the Dwarf Mini I would typically bring a battery pack with me, which increases the weight and the volume, right? And if ZWO manages to release it at a price that is, I would say, $600 or under, it's going to be successful. I think it's going to be worth it. It's a good telescope with good optics, with a good sensor, with good accessories, with good software. The AI voice for the description of stuff is a bit janky, telling us that LY, which stands for light year, it pronounces it lie and that kind of stuff. But still, it's stuff that we can overlook fairly easily. My biggest really issue with this guy is maybe that the stars are not quite as sharp as I think they could be. And I'm sure this is something that is likely enhanceable via software to get better autofocus on this. That's my only real complaint there. I've mentioned a couple of other things as well, but overall, very good effort. And one of the things also with the sensor in there, it has a very low read noise, what we call a read noise, which means that it can really work very well with short exposures, and that's why it was so good on the Horsehead Nebula, despite going through a dual band light pollution filter with just 10-second exposures. Like, really good stuff that it was able to do like that. With that, let me know what you think of this down in the comments. Would you buy it? Do you have it on your wish list? Would you not buy it? Why? Let us know. Leave a like while you're at it, and if you want to support me even more and you're planning on buying anything from ZWO, like the Seestar S30 Pro or something else, or from Agena, High Point Scientific, even anything from Amazon, if you do so after clicking the links that I have down in the description or in the pinned comment, it will help me out at no cost to you. If you want to support me even more, become a sponsor of the channel. You can become a channel member. It's a join button next to the subscribe button, or a Patreon supporter. The link is down in the description. Some of my Patreon ranks have access to my videos early and without ads, and all of them have access to a Discord server. With that, I hope this was an interesting video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, whenever you can, to look up at the stars, and I'll see you next time.